Good evening, everybody. What do you think of this? Huh? I'm back in Gwendraeth, or as we used to call it, Gwen. Okay, first of all, anybody who doesn't know what this place is, this is our, well, mine and many others, obviously, comprehensive school. So Gwendraeth Comprehensive School, as we called it, Gwen. Before that, or after that I should say, they changed the name to Ysgol Gwendraeth. So it's gone through a few names. Prior to that, I think it was a grammar school. So I'm going to turn this back a minute. Let's have a little peep around here, shall we? So this was the main entrance. I don't know where the sign's gone. There used to be a sign there telling us. I'm still gobsmacked that I'm able to get hold of this tie and wear this on the grounds again. Absolutely surreal. I didn't spend much time here while I was here, mind. And now I'm going to come back here dressed in the uniform. I don't have much of a uniform, mind. So, Gwendraeth Valley Comprehensive School, when we were here back in the 90s, it was one of two schools. The other school was Maesararfa, or as well, we had a bit of a derogatory name for our rival schoolers. Let's have a look here. If I turn this around, this is the humanities block, or used to be the humanities block. No longer so. And a few things have changed here since we were here. Good evening, everybody. Before Lisa, Michael, Darryl, Lee, thanks for joining in. Do me a favour, let's share this. Let's see who else plugs in. I remember standing here. This is where we used to stand and wait for the bus in the first year at least, and a couple of years beyond that. And look, this is the bus bay. Go down here, so you could come in here, and then that was the bus bay, and we'd look out onto this when we were kids. About Form 1 we'd sit on the edge of that and sort of name the cars passing by, any sort of nerdy thing you could get away with and enjoy. Anyway, so here we are back in Gwendraeth. Now, when I was here, there was about 600 pupils. I'm guessing, I'd say roughly about 600 pupils. That was later dwindled down to about 300 before they closed it. I'm not sure what year the school was built. Maybe we can find some evidence in a moment to show us what year it was built. I'm sure there's a few people around that might be able to tell us something or other. Anyway, I'm going to turn this back around for a second. Good evening, Stephen Jones. Thanks for joining us. So here was the exit that took us straight to the humanities block. Now in there, we used to have geography, we used to have history. Most importantly, as far as I know, Darryl says that gate has never been opened. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not even sure. I can't say for definite. I keep turning this back so it gives you an idea of what this section was like. And those of you who remember coming to this school, you'll remember every inch of this place. Now in there, I used to have a class with, I believe, I forget her name. It's awful, isn't it? Was it Mrs. Thomas? We used to do computers in there, and that's where we saw the first IBM computers coming from primary school. We didn't have any sort of background in computers, so in there was, for me, the beginning of that next generation. Before the internet, obviously, Or was it? Maybe there was internet here. I don't remember exactly there being anything of that nature. However, it could have been. Good evening, Kate, Carl, Craig, Ash. Do me a favour, share this to your friends, because maybe they'd like to see what it's like over here, as if we're in Chernobyl or something. Yeah, so when we came here, it was sort of, this school mainly was for people who needed a little help with their Welsh maybe, but mostly for English speaking students or pupils. Good evening, Mohammed. We used to play football there, Darrell says, every morning with a tennis ball. Yeah, tennis ball. Why would you need a football? Footballs just got stuck on the roofs of these places and you couldn't get them back. At least with a tennis ball, happy days. Yeah, so a lot of our parents used to send us to this school if, well, some would believe that it was a good school because it used to be a grammar school before this. So maybe they were shortchanged at the end of it, I'm not sure. Stephen Jones says, I remember the toilets from the back. Used to get my head stuck down them. A lot. I don't know about that, Stephen. You get your head stuck down the toilet. I don't believe that for a second, I'm afraid. However, I'm sure a lot of people did. And we'll come to that in a moment. But right now, I'm taking my shirt and tie around the block for a little stroll in the Bronx. So the Bronx this week goes back to Gwen. So they closed this place in 2013, like I said, so it's been closed 6 years. I find that absolutely bonkers. There's, good evening, Mike. Mr. Posh today. Right, I am. Let's have a look, just turn this back round. Look at that. Nia the Gwendraeth. That cost 2 million to build. Hopefully it's been put to good use. Wasn't there when we were here. Now that's what you call posh, Mike. Didn't have posh things like that when we were in Gwendraeth. We couldn't even, I can't claim, okay, many people didn't wear school jumpers back in those days. We'd wear these, we'd wear them back to front, let me show you. So we'd wear these as small as possible. We would take the colour out of the tie. We'd chop them, so you'd literally have about that much. We never wore jumpers. I think some of the kids wore jumpers, and you wore them when you had to, but otherwise we wore hoodies or our shirts hanging out halfway down our backsides or rolled up, or we'd even have our sleeves rolled. Let's see if I can have a look in the classroom here. Yeah, we can't really see much, can we? You can see one of the boards there. Yeah, maybe we'll have better vision around the side, possibly. Yeah, so I think we have some Logic Dell computers in there that weren't. Let's see if we can look down here. You have to be able to see down here, don't you? Look at that. That is the corridor. I can see right down to the other end there, which is do you know when you look through this window and you can see your past travelling right down that corridor. I'd love to go in there. Unfortunately, I have tried my absolute best to get into this building for the last few months. I currently can't have access due to health and safety and insurance. Good evening, Jason Addison. Nice tie. Yes, thank you very much, sir. Ash says, I was never hard enough for Gwen, ended up in mice. Now, yeah, you probably spoke good Welsh as well. I didn't. I did. Fi'n gallu siarad Cymraeg nawr o hyd, ond sa'n siarad digon o fe, and sa'n credu o'n i'n siarad digon o fe per ni. So basically I'm saying that we never used to speak enough Welsh even then, or good enough. Me, not other people. However, if before I go anywhere, before I have a little tour around, Good evening, Jane. Thanks for joining us. Before I have a little tour around, I'd just like to point out that this school, before it went to Mice, now Mice and Gwendraeth are one amalgamated school. It's a super school. It's an £18 million project which moved all the students from here over to Ethan to the other school. But ever since, this has done nothing. Nothing much has been done here. I say that there are a few projects like the sports hall. There's the autism centre or unit, and nurseries and that kind of thing. But the main building is no longer used, which is kind of sad. I want to have a look here. Let's see if we can. Good evening, Gwen, Martin, Gemma, Liz. So let's have a look in here. I think this might be. This was our French class. We couldn't speak bloody Welsh, let alone French. I lie. I used to speak good Welsh. No, can't see anything through there, which is a shame. Good evening, Claire. Thank you for joining us. So, let's go and have a peep, shall we? I can see that there's a load of tables in there. Let's have another peep around. Turn this around. Now you can see, I've got a funny feeling that used to be my Welsh class, or at least my first registration classroom. I have a bad memory. We all remember what those are. Yeah, those are the arches. Everybody used to hide in the arches, even if it was for a smoke or a quick cutch or just to bunk off class. Didn't last very long, because if you think about it, let me turn this back round. Right behind those arches were the offices of Mr. Morgan, I believe, and Mrs. Lodwick, who were the deputy, well, one of them was the deputy headmaster or mistress at that time. So you weren't going to do much hiding. I believe that was it. Anyway, I might be wrong. There could be other parts. Now, if I turn this round again, I'm sure that there was my reg class, or it was that one. And in here was the hall. Now this, I would love to get in and get up on that stage right now, because I believe the stage is somewhere near there. We're not going to get in on that, unfortunately, which is an absolute siom os wedyn nhw'n Gymraeg. So what does Gwendraeth stand for, I'd like to know. What does it stand for? Well, it doesn't stand for anything. It's as simple as it is. Where am I going with that? I have no idea. Gwendraeth Valley Comprehensive. It's simple. So, what do I want to tell you? Look, there's the reception. We turn that round. I believe that maybe Mrs. Lodwick was in one of those. If anybody else remembers, you might want to share that. Good evening, Dean, Nicola, Amy. Thanks for joining us. As you can see, I'm wearing the original Gwendraeth tie and shirt. Couldn't do that much when I was in school, but I'm doing it now for old time's sake, okay? I can't believe this. The things we do, huh? Good evening, Isla. Let me point out, this tie actually belongs to Isla, who kindly borrowed it to me, because I tried to get a tie off Bugs the other day. Bugs has kindly donated it to my project for a little while, but I felt that this was in better condition, Bugs. Good evening, Christian. Left office she was she? Okay. Phil Bowen. Let's have a look. Right, I'm going to turn this round here. Now, in our day, back in the 90s, this was nowhere to be seen. I think it stopped about there. This has had a clean makeover since. And right there, you had steps that went up into the building, into the main corridor. Now, I don't think you can see anything. right on this side I think was the toilets, so you could have access into the toilets there. You can't really see anything, however that's a shame. I'd love to be able to see in there. There's not enough light. I remember my very first day, and my main memory is right where I was a moment ago, going up those steps and feeling that sort of overwhelming feeling that you're about to leave primary school. And it was a day visit. You're about to leave primary school and join this huge school with hundreds and hundreds of pupils. That's something else, isn't it? You never forget that. And I wish I could just look up those steps right now and show you what I mean. This is strange. Hang on, let's have a look. If I turn this round. Now I'm going down the back of this building. And if we look, there used to be a door here. Wasn't there? There used to be a door here. I don't even know. I'm sure there was. Was there a door there? When we were in school, there was a door there. That's the toilet you were talking about, Stephen, where people used to get their heads ducked in. Was that a myth? I never saw anybody getting their head ducked in the toilet. I remember hearing that when I was in primary. Oh, you're going into Gwendraeth. You're going to get your head ducked down the toilet. Oh, brilliant! We've got that to look forward to. I heard other horror stories, as I'm sure many of you did. Let's not share them. Anyways, I'm gonna have a little peep down here. Where do I want to go next? So let's have a look. So we've had a look at that. Let's have a look at, yeah, Boys Bogs. It was Darrell. I'm sure that was definitely the Boys Bogs. But where was the entrance? I did closely. That's Stephen Jones saying there. Now look at that. Now does anybody remember queuing up here? I hope you can hear me because it's quite windy around this area. But does anybody remember queuing up in about 4 lines in front of this building just to get their bloomin' chips or pizza or whatever you were having on the day? I can actually smell the food coming out of that place, and there's nothing being cooked. Apart from my brain right now knowing that I'm back where I was. Anybody that's never been here since they left school, you've got to do it. It fries your mind. I'm going to have a closer look at this, so I'm going to turn the cameras. So can you see through there? I don't think you can. It seems to be far too much reflection. See if we can see through here. You have to have a glance at. So you can see just about the old cookers there, and if you look to the side you'll be able to see where we got our chips. You've had your chips, sir. So, turkey burger, yeah, I remember the turkey burgers. We all used to queue up for those things. Maria, I can't see the screen here, unfortunately. The sun is quite overbearing. That's a first. Okay, good evening, Maria and Morgan. I'd avoid those toilets like the plague. I don't blame you, Darrell. There was a good reason to avoid those toilets. Let me turn this back round then. So coming up here is the old gym, the ancient gym, the Gampfa. So this place, now we were introduced to this as kids. Now when I say kids, I mean 7, 8. So we were no stranger to this place. This, if anything, you know, you were integrated into, or the school was integrated into the community far before we ever went to school here. So that is where we used to do karate, many people would have done gymnastics. I'm going to go around here, see if I can see through the windows. Now they used to have bars on the wall. Yes, they're still here. Nice. You can see the old gymnasium floor. I imagine is still being used. It'd be a travesty if it wasn't. And I used to have climbing ropes at the end. You can't see anything through here, unfortunately. Yeah, they'd have the gym horse. They would have ropes to climb up, the bars to climb up, and we'd be more up there than listening to anybody in any classes. Good evening, Nicola. My great aunt was a dinner lady there. Ivy Llewellyn. I don't remember Ivy Llewellyn. Not by name. I may remember her by face. Claire Davies. The old caretaker is my boy's school bus driver. The place hasn't changed one bit. No, it hasn't. And that's good. In one way. Now, does anybody remember there used to be a car bin there? There was a car bin there, a science block. So you'd have your gas taps and things, and we'd sit round those, behaving, never doing any mischief, and we'd wait patiently for our teacher to return to see us sitting there patiently, ready to do work. Now, poor old Jedka. I've not seen Jedka in recent years. I'm not sure if he still lives around here, but Mr. Jedka used to put up with a lot with us kids. He always had time and patience for us, and I'll give him that. And right next door to this car bin, I turn back, you can't really see anything. As you can see, this was the plot it was on. You'd have a snooker room. There you could play snooker next door. You could theoretically play snooker next door. However, I never played snooker next door because nobody was ever allowed to play snooker. I'm not sure why. Here's the old tennis court. And I say old tennis court. It is pretty old, haggard, and had its course in life. But we used to sit in the banks here, and as you can see, there's a football pitch up there. I'm sure this used to be a rugby pitch more than anything. Good evening, Janet, Dawn. So up there, we'd even have our pictures taken here, didn't we? So I turn this over. So across the top there, you would have us all on a line, these huge plinths or whatever you want to call them, and we'd all be standing in a massive race of 600 people for one photographer to have a nightmare taking pictures of us. Poor you. Anyway, let's go and have a look what else is down the bottom here. I hope you can hear me. I'm having an issue with the sort of wind hitting the camera, so I don't know if there's any issue there. Let's turn this back round again. Good evening, Nigel. So here, does anybody remember? This was a weights room down there. Good evening, Alex. This was a weight room down there, and I believe it was Alan Lewis who used to take us guys and show us the ropes and how to use these weights properly. Dawn Carby, I've got a long photo. Yeah, okay, yeah, the photographs that they used to take of us then were long photographs with everybody stuffed in. Right, as many of you will remember, that there was our music block. Now that was something else. In your first year of school, they had a music block. Now that, apparently, at the top window there, which doesn't seem to be blocked anymore, used to be, dare I say it, haunted. No. Don't have a good long photo. Darryl McKee, top floor was haunted. There you go, Darryl. You just confirmed what I was just saying. So the top floor was haunted. Everybody said that. That was that was the info you got from Form 1 to Form 5. They don't say forms now. They say years. So in year 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. This would be the caretaker's house, which I'm not sure if anybody lives, so excuse me if I am prying. Now then, this here was the main gym, the new gym as we called it. Let's have a look, what's everybody saying here? So Darren Reese, I remember the music block. Nicola, I remember it as 6th form block, was it? Okay, I'll go back to that in a minute. Good evening, Dean. So there is the new gym. This was massive, the weights room. I think it still functions in the community, although I'm not 100%. It may have closed by now. That would have squash court, a huge gym area, weights room, changing rooms, etc. Now if I turn this around again, now there you go, that's the 6th form block, which is Garrigloyd. Now Garrigloyd was, as I remember, the 6th form block, which is now a unit for autism. Now I can't go around any of this stuff because there's gates surrounding the entire area, so we're just going to keep walking up, I think. Let's go back up to the top and we'll go for a little stroll. Now I'm sure many of you remember this area. I'll turn this back. Now that's something else, isn't it? Here's the DT block. Now we were told that this is where now, put it this way, if anybody ever watched Nightmare on Elm Street, this kind of I think the boiler rooms are in there, so it gives you a kind of a picture of where I'm going, which I'm not going to repeat. I remember watching Big Daddy and Giant Haystacks in there. Yes, yeah, they used to put on some big shows in the gym. I think back in the day they had East 17 come here. I don't remember much about it, but I do remember the band playing there, or group. I'm not sure we can call them a band, but they were a big name. I turn this around again. You know, things start to sort of feel real when you come round here. Didn't East 17 come to the concert? Yes, they did. Okay, missing a few messages there. Thought someone died in the top music floor. Yes, Amy, that is the legend. Loved biology lessons with Henshaw. Yes, we all loved Henshaw. Art with Mrs. Ennis, yes. Nina Pryor, thanks for joining us. Let's see if we can have a better look in here, shall we? Okay, do we have seems to be some damage up there, but that there was the corridor to your science block, and this room here was the staff room. Well, I remember staff used to sort of chill out in there with their cups of coffee, and back then they used to smoke as well in the same room. When I started the 6th form block, had a walled garden. Yes, it did. Yes, Darryl, you are right. So you can't really... It's a shame we can't get in here. It would be wonderful to... So look at that. There's your entrance to the staff room and the science block. The strange things. I have I have a memory of coming out of there, just bunking lessons and just coming out of there and maybe hiding, jump over the wall here, straight into the toilets, and then I'd return after my break. I'm sure many pupils used to do that. Staff room there, Mr. Warwick was my reg teacher next door. What year was Mr. Warwick still teaching you? In 2013? I have no idea. He used to teach us physics. Was physics his thing? When you guys were there, I'm sure it was. I don't think it changes. Good evening, Darren Gravel. I'm sure you remember this place just as much as any of us. Darren was in my year, and he was naughtier than me. Just joking. Darren was a good boy. I feel. Can we see anything through there? Right there, you can see through. Oh, only just. There's too much reflection. We're still there in 2005. Okay, I left school here in 2000. 2000, I wish. In 1995, 6. 5 or 6. Good evening, Bugs. Loving the tie. I too am loving the tie. Didn't love it much when I was here, I can tell you that. Now then, let's have a look at this place. Amy, Christina. He was still there when I left, and I'm 24. What year was that then, Amy? John Paul, good evening. Right, look at this. Now if you don't remember that place, then you were never here. This is pretty, this was it. This was the DT block. Now, many people used to congregate here, sit on the benches. No benches left here. They'll steal anything here, honestly. They used to back then. I'm surprised the seats lasted that long. If we come down here, this is the DT block. Now anybody that was in school here will remember Mr. Gibbons, who was pretty much the gatekeeper of this place. You'll remember Mr. Harris. Oof, you can't see anything beyond that point, unfortunately. It's empty. Right, let's turn back. What's happening? Right, does anybody remember the machine that used to be there? Yep, DT block, 2011. So you were still there in 2011, not bad. Mr. Burton is in mice, Gwendraeth now. My daughter is not too fond. I'm not going to say. There used to be a Coca-Cola machine there, or Pepsi if I remember correctly, and you'd be able to stick your hand up the bottom of the machine, whack the money box, money'd come spilling out, and then you put the money back in and you get a free drink. Now somebody'd worked out how to get actual drinks free there once. I don't remember the details, however it's good times. Free drinks. Who doesn't want free drinks in school? Claire says she loved Mr. Gibbons. I think everybody liked Mr. Gibbons. Does anybody remember him coming through this whole building, and he'd have his pipe back then? He'd be smoking a pipe in his office. That's probably the only place he would have been allowed back then. Or maybe he wasn't, I don't know. You could smell that stuff right through the building. Yeah, it's strange. So you have Mrs. Howells' class over here. Let me just turn that round. Mrs. Howells' class there. And on the other side you'd have Mrs. Ennis, Mr. Harris, or Mr. Thomas possibly, I remember. And then here, now for many of you, over the last 10 years I imagine, you had this block. No, these blocks were taken away when we were in school and then replaced sometime later. There seems to be a car park here as well. That wasn't here either. Now this was a place where we congregated and sort of, I don't know, hung out. That wasn't there, and this wasn't there. Should have been there. There were steps to come down to it, but the buildings weren't there. Now I'm not sure. I think it's a science block, I believe. No, I just remember this part. Let me just turn this around again. Good evening, Vicky. I remember everyone playing walls with their pennies over by the block. Good. I'm glad you brought that up. I was going to mention that earlier, never went back to it. Good evening, Scurry. Paul Bennett. It's Lodwig's Biol class, was it? Okay, that's interesting. Anyway, here. Now, I remember a day when this was a scrap spot. This is where everybody used to come and fight. I don't know, maybe it wasn't intentional, but it always seemed to be where everybody would congregate. It's a big word today. And I don't know, anybody that had issues with each other, they'd fight it out. That's how they did it back then. And they do it clean as well, as far as I remember. However, maybe someone can sort of remind me otherwise. I always seem to remember, I don't know if they, like I said, we used to chop these things up and take the bits out of them. We never used to wear school jumpers. Our shirts would always be out, but we'd also wear, against Mrs. Lodwig's intentions, or anybody in the sort of head of at the head of this school, they always had to remind us, where's our jumpers, take your earrings out. I used to have 3. You'd be wearing trainers, white trainers, weren't allowed white trainers. Where's your shoes, Davies? They're in the wash. Which was an odd thing to have to explain. They're in the wash, your shoes. Why are your shoes in the wash? I didn't have school shoes, I didn't want school shoes. I wanted white trainers like everyone else. The steps were there. And the cabin, Simon John. Adam Wilcox, good evening. Nia Pemberton, Crosswork keys. Let's turn this around so you can see. Now, I've taken a picture of this a few times. I think that's a fascinating picture itself. I'll share that later. But this was the science block. It was a laboratory, biology. Lodwig wasn't in charge with us, just a normal biol. Well, you had Lodwig and Lodwick. When you guys were in school, she may have left. Lodwick, I believe it was Lodwick, not Lodwig, that used to be the deputy head mistress. Different times, many years before. Good evening, Sharon. Thanks for joining us. Does anybody remember the trainers you used to wear? You used to wear huge, high-tech, massive tongues on these trainers, like ankle boots. They'd be high-tech, LA gears. Some would have Gola. I don't know. They were the what would you call it? A trend. Where some kids wore the Nikes or sort of Adidas or Reebok pumps, these became our sort of trend. I made Dots Championships. I tell you what, mister, I used to thrash you in dots. Truth. I'm glad you reminded me of that. Dots. Mr. Adam Wilcox, I used to play dots with you in classroom. This was a game where we would set out a grid on paper for any of you who have not played this. Maybe you had your own games to distract you from learning. But me and Mr. Wilcox used to sit there playing dots all day. Never learnt a sausage in school. I could blame you, Wilcox, but I know that it's probably mainly my fault. I think I'm the one that used to set the grid out constantly. Richard Walters, yes, get in here, Richard Walters. High tops, yeah, that was it. So we're talking about the trainers again. Now, I do remember Nike Airs or Nike Air Max being a big thing, so we never wore the correct uniform. it was a sacrilege to wear such a thing, he says. Kickers shoes, yes, kickers shoes, mad. Totally forgot about kickers shoes. Yeah, they were a big thing. It was Mrs. Lodwick, says Dawn Carby. There were 2 when we were there. Yep. And Mrs. Lodwick never liked the shoes, or the earrings, or the shirt not tucked in, or the jumper, or anything that you weren't meant to do. She'd make sure that you were being warned about it. I had Reebok headlights. What are headlights? I don't remember them. Reebok was a big thing then, wasn't it? Not so much now, I don't believe. However, naff coats. Do you remember the coats? There were ski coats, shell suits. I never had a shell suit. That was far too posh for me. But I do remember them. Does everybody remember the ski coats? The Liverpool coats, the Adidas coats, the long red coats. They were quite popular as well. Good evening, Jessica. White trainers and jumpers around the waist, yeah. Kappa was a little later on, I think, wasn't it? I think it was coming to the end, maybe after I'd left. Kappa poppers, I believe, where your trousers would pull apart at the bottom. Now, my brother, who's a few years younger than me, would remember these. I remember him wearing them to school instead of his own trousers. Oh, look what I have here. You have to see something else. Because I remember here, if I can sit down for just a moment, just to show you some of this stuff. Now, I remember this part here, so I'm going to turn it around. Yes. Yeah, cheers, Claire. Everyone would throw their bags in piles up by the toilets. Yep. So let's just turn that round. Right there. People would dump their bags probably around there. Am I right? And just go about their business. And the bags were safe there, I believe. I think, as far as I remember. Maybe my bag was still there long after I'd left. Anyway, as you see, I've got my little headphones here. My 80s, 90s headphones. I also have this. Look at that. I'm now literally going back to the early 90s. Now that's what you had before iPods and iPhones and all that. And we used to use those. Maybe some of you still use them. I don't know. I used to put my lunch in all the pockets of my coat. Yeah. Save you coming back. 50% of the boys having head bags. Yes, head bags were a big thing. But when we were in school, this is the kind of stuff we carried in our bags. Not books. It should have been books. I wish it had been books now, because I think I'd been far along the table, maybe. Nah, wouldn't have happened. Who am I kidding? Anyway, tapes. This is where we used to hang out and swap these things. And we would... so here, in this area, the DT block, I've got memories of sort of swapping tapes with people. I remember getting... I think it was Nirvana off you, Dale Reese, if you're on here somewhere. There's also Metallica, yeah. But I remember rave 80s. I don't know if I can put this stuff on for you. Probably not. Let's see. Let me see if I can press play here. You can get the sound. You getting anything on there? I bet you're not. Now that's Rave Generator. 1992, I believe. Had that tape right here in this spot, and I remember it. And I found it this week, along with those other tapes. Claire, use a pencil, reel them back. Yes, we did. Tapes weren't the best invention in terms of, you know, we're talking about magnetic things here, which used to get chewed up. I'm going to put that back there. I'm going to turn this off, I think. Give me a second. Just to... But yeah, anybody who didn't have tapes, again, I'm going to recommend something. Go on eBay and pick up a couple, because I tell you what, if you used to use them back in the old days, if you used to use them back in the old days, you're going to have a bit of a nostalgia hit, because I've gone and bought a few of these things and old stereos just to play tapes. Vinyl is dead. I'm going to upset someone now. Those of you out there who are collecting vinyl, forget it. It's tape, my friend. So I have loads of memories here of sort of, I don't know why. Maybe I remember having conversations about music and, you know, the bands and groups and artists we were into. And I'm sure maybe some of you will remember those conversations. But yeah, it's a real, I'm having a bit of a nostalgia hit just talking to you guys every week. I'm bringing things back. Anybody guess where I'm going? I bet you can't. Good evening, Jenna, Owen. I'm going to turn this round. So here we go. Turn this back this way. Hello. Look at that. Now this was home. For many of us, this was the place where we spent most of our time. That's awesome. Stephen Jones, he's still got his up in the loft. Is that vinyl or tape? I'm gonna safely assume that it's tapes. The garages. Yes, it is the garages. Ha ha, the smoker's den, says Darren. No. The Guerrero Centre, Jessica Lewis. No, Guerrero was our headmaster, who passed away not long after we left school. But I always remember Guerrero to be a pretty nice guy as far as I remember. But I had no idea they'd actually named this the Guerrero Centre, or Ganalvon Guerrero. Darren Reese Garages. Now we used to live here, basically. This is where we came to hide. Now you can just imagine, if I turn this around, just for me to get a better perspective for you all. So this was our view, pretty much all break times. Anytime before school, after school, this is where everybody came for a quick ciggy. And just to talk nonsense. I was always too scared to go down there. I heard a lot of people saying that they were scared to come down here, and I don't blame you, to be honest. It was quite intimidating, especially for young ladies who were having to come down this way with tons of people. It was cool in there, like a fake French town inside, and it was barely used. Now this I don't know. I do remember there, coming down this line, you'd have Mr. Gibbons and Mr. Matthews calling us just to warn us. I'm sure that was the motive. So I would be probably about there smoking break time, or before even lesson had begun or ended, or maybe halfway through a lesson. I'm revealing something now, I suppose, and so I'd be there, not just me, a few others. And Mr. Guerrero, Mr. Gibbons, you'd hear Mr. Gibbons shouting round the corner, "We're coming! You might want to put those cigarettes out, or you're going to have detention." So we'd all scamper. So we, you know, it was good of them to do that, I'd say. Nice top chaps. I'm sure you used to run around with your tie on your head, Hugh. I'm not going to admit to that. I probably did. Somebody just told me that you should wear it around your head. Sounds like me, really. Still the idiot of the class. So Karen Jane, good evening. Gavin Thomas, thanks for joining us. We're down in the smoker's corner. Now, let me show you something up here. Now, when somebody said Ennis earlier, that is Ennis's class up there. And the best thing is, so whose class was that then? Was that Howells? I'm sure there was Howells. Then you had the corridor, and then you had Ennis's class. Now, just imagine there's a group of kids down here smoking, talking and gabbing quite loudly, and then Mrs. Ennis opens the window and throws a jug of water down on our heads there. Wonderful, huh? She always had a sense of humour. Always admired her. She never caught me on the head. I think she knew I was under there, I'd like to think. So those of you who got splattered, well, you shouldn't have been there in the first place. So there's the steps. There's one thing that we have here. This was always the bit where we left our names. However, there's none of our names here, I'm sure. So we've got Archie, Lewis, Luca, Ellie, Drew, Jasmine, I believe, Kim. We used to draw on this thing. We used to scratch our names into this, but it's had a few coats of paint since then. And this used to be a garage door as well, not doors itself. I can't imagine you being able to make anything out here. I can see something. Hang on, is that a hitch? Is that my name? That would be something, wouldn't it? We've got Lacey, Leah and Stacey. Amazing times. I can't tell you. When you walk around this place, it brings it back, and you know, you think school's crap when you're in school. Or maybe some of you don't. Maybe some of you love school. I wasn't much of a fan of school either way. Yes, that was the Dawn Carby. There was the sewing room opposite Mrs. Ennis. So yes, that was Mrs. Howell's class. So there's your rugby pitch, which was absolutely ginormous. I'd love to go back, says I got chocolate here, cross workies. This is much as I'd like to go back, because I'm not one for authority. I'm not one who enjoys that kind of environment. Don't get me wrong, I'm like anyone else. I don't mind giving a bit of a few tasks out. Don't much like doing them myself. That is the nature of the beast, isn't it? No, I turn this back. But look at it. I'd go back in this capacity. I would go back and film it. I would go back and remember it. I would go back and enjoy it through my memory. I would not want to be a pupil one more time. I've been a student many times since I left here, would you believe it? And I've absolutely loved it. So who have we got on here? Chris Abbott, exactly. Cross country around that field. We used to hide down the bank and join in on the last lap. Brilliant, I like that. That was Dawn, Karen. The country run on rugby nearly killed us. Yet I'd go up the garages for a fag, as most people did. Yep, the rugby field. Good evening, Charlene, Rian Hancock. It is surreal. Even now, I've been down here a couple of times. The last time I was here, let's see if I can get turn this around. Forget that. Wasn't very good at holding my breath. Yeah, that's Stephen Jones. Ross Willingham. Good evening, Ross. Now you remember this school. What's your thoughts, my friend? You can't really see anything through here again. It's too dark in there. You can see the door out the other side. Darrell McKee. I'm glad we had no camera phones back then. Yeah, so am I. So am I. Charlene. Oh yes, I remember going there for a fag. Don't we all? It was the godsend, wasn't it? It was the reprieve, the break from our nightmare, which was school. Who wants to learn? I didn't want to learn anything. I had better things to learn outside of this place. Although I did learn a lot, I've got to say, and we did have some good teachers. Who could relate to us? You can't see anything in there, they're just bags. Alden Wilcox. One of my favourite pastimes, walls, is coming up. You got me. Lost many pounds there. Annalise, Hitchman, Morgan. Good times. They were good times. They were good times. And I remember this classroom right here. Right there. This was Harris's class. And he used to teach us metalwork, I believe. You can't really see anything in there. You can see a few machines and chairs stacked up. Ross Willingham says he climbed through the window in that block, set the alarms off. I tell you what, if there was a door open right now, I think I'd be tempted to walk in. Was that the door, Ross? I believe it must have been, or was it that down the side? Either way, you naughty boy, Ross. Yeah, no, Adam mentions, let's point this out, shall we? That is the wall. Now, if I had coins on me right now, let me demonstrate. Let's see if I can turn this around. I'll put this over here. And I'll leave that there. And I'll run into shop. So, here, 4 or 5 of us would lean into a line, and you'd have a quid. Didn't have to be a quid, Adam. That was your choice. 5 pence, 2 pence, 10 pence, 50 pence, whatever. Just throw a fiver in there if you want. But basically, the closest coin to the wall wins the whole sweep. And then that was our gambling game. By the main entrance, the right window should be open. Go jumping in here. What makes you think I would do that now, Ross? I cannot believe you just said that. It's like you had some sort of idea that I would do such a thing. So, let's have a look. What a game, says Adam Wilcox. It was a game. Does anybody remember any other games that we used to play around here? I can't remember anything in particular. Let me just have a... I'm going to turn this over to the canteen, just to remind you a minute. And this is it. Now I know that some of you live around here, and many of you may actually, come walking, possibly with your children, your family, or your pets. Or if you haven't been here, you have to come back, because this is, or was, one of the hearts of our community. Schools are, it's what teaches us what we want to be, or what we don't want to be. It is one of those, how could I not film this? You know what I mean? This was one of the places that maybe I despised at some level, but at other times I loved also. Now, any of you who used to come here would, like I, have had a ritual. Now, every day would start with, I don't know, if you went to the garage before you came to school, you would then have to dip into your pocket money or whatever, go and get your smokes, your jawbreakers. Do you remember your jawbreakers? Does anybody remember buying jawbreakers, or was that just me? Gobstoppers. And then you'd go to school. Now there's no other place other than the ones I'm going to show you now, or at least one of them. I can't promise to show you everything. Snogging up the arches. That's kind of what I was alluding to earlier, thank you. although I can't say too much there. Awesome game, says Stephen. Bulldog, yes, Bulldog. Do you know, it's strange that we haven't really spoken about Bulldog. Bulldog was a brutal game, and you get your ass kicked. I remember a thing happening here, other than Bulldog. Bulldog was brutal, but I tell you, the most brutal thing I remember ever seeing in school was called a postad. How many of you remember what a postad is? Some of you don't even want to know what a postad is. Some of you had one, some of you gave them. Yeah, you know where I'm going, Ross. Now a postad, let me point this out. Now, here, we used to have concrete bollards going down there so far. Can you see where I'm going with this? Yes, banks was another one, yeah. Now, any of you remember what a Melvin is? Does anybody remember a Melvin? Well, let me tell you what a Melvin is. A Melvin is when somebody gives you a wedgie, rips your pants up the back of your backside. Now, a postad, if I turn this around here, imagine a wedgie given with a post. That is probably the best description I can give without getting too graphic. But people would hold you into a cross position and take you for a ride into a post. I saw it happen once. It wasn't a very comfortable thing to watch, let alone see, let alone have done to yourself. So that was Gwendraeth. I hope you've enjoyed sort of seeing the place. I hope it's brought back some good memories. I do wonder where that place is going to be in the next 2, 3, 5, 10 years. That there is our past. That's our history. I'd like to see it there 20 years from now. I'd like to be here in 20 years and look at that place and tell my grandchildren, that's what we did there. And if I can't, then I'm doing it right now. And you're doing it with me. How's that? Let's see what... Oh yes, you know where we're going. Dawn, does anyone remember East 17 though? They were awesome when they dawned. I remember East 17. And we never had Take That. We did have a Nirvana cover band in the hall. Does anybody remember that? That was pretty amazing. Different sounds though, Dawn. Yes, we do remember E17. They played in the sports hall, yes. I'm now actually walking through the village of Drefach. And when I say the village of Drefach, I mean little town in English, wearing a Gwendraeth tie. I have a Walkman hanging out of my pocket and I have earphones on my neck. I'm wondering if anybody's actually thinking, oh my god, what have I just seen? Somebody from Gwendraeth has just appeared in front of my house. That's without appearing on everybody's Facebook account. Yes, I went mitching down the combe. What? What? Adam? I don't believe it. You didn't go mitching, you weren't that type? That's when E17 came to town. Adam went mitching. So let's turn this around. I'm now in Drefach, and that was the post office. Now who remembers going there? Dinner time, lunchtime, before school? Shane Good was on the stage with his pants down. Maybe you're talking about the Nirvana gig, I hope. Backroom, fags and pool. Now this wasn't backroom, fags and pool. This was gobstoppers and fags. There was also, let me point out, another little place that we hid was up the side alley there. So that would go round the back of the streets. We'd catch a bus from there, that wall there, and we'd go back in that direction, back to Tumble. Happy days. Let's have a look. So if we keep walking in this direction, you'll see where I'm going. Now normally I'd probably say, it's time to give it a rest now. I think we've been running for a bit, probably about an hour I'd say. But how can I go away from this evening without going to the one last place, or the very first place that we used to go before school, even during the whole time of school. So right now, if you're passing me on the side of the road, give me a doot, just for the tie. You might pass my house now here. I think I have, Ross. You're up the other way. I'm not coming. I might do. I might just come back, and maybe you can come out and say hello. How's that sound? Are you there? You want to say hello? Shin good. Back room. Let's have a look. I remember them. It's good times. So I'm going to turn this back around. Might as well get some of Drefach on thing. There's one thing I didn't mention earlier, and that was probably the Mice of Gwendraeth. There's one thing that we try and do on here is the translations, at least. Does anybody remember the park down here? So you went round down that street, and the park, well, it was one way of getting into it. I don't think it was the proper way. But you went down that way and then went through the hedge, I believe. It's not something I want to do right now. You can just see me filming, climbing through a hedge and getting into trouble, just like I didn't do when I was younger. So that was Gwendraeth. Gwendraeth Valley Comprehensive School, closed in 2013. Now a big super school, an £18 million super school in Kevin Ethan, and they called that Mice of Gwendraeth. So its legacy still goes on. It might have been the old Mice of Yrfa, but it moved on to become Gwendraeth. So anybody who went to Mice when we were in school, we win. It's no competition. I didn't care much for being there anyway. So in any school, not just Gwendraeth. I did love it. I think everybody did. Good evening. So yeah, okay. Here we go. Let's turn this round, shall we? Who remembers this boot? Now there, Ross, Stephen, this is where you got your bacon egg, your chips, your lunchtime snacks. And this is where you got your 10p fags, your £300 box of smokes. And that's where you used to hide. Used to go mitching there. Not me, I never did that. I was a sensible young lad. Unlike some of you scoundrels. That there is where you played Street Fighter. It's where you played pool. It's where you hung out through most of the lessons and didn't go back on time. And it's the good old Dave Calf. Everybody remembers Dave Calf. So where do kids go when Dave's shop closed down? I mean, where would you have gone then? What a downer. Why would you close, Dave? Why would you run away and leave us like that? Have enjoyed your trip down memory lane. Thank you very much, and thank you for joining me. It's been a pleasure. Before I go, I'm going to show you one little thing that we were fascinated with when we were kids, and it's still there. I'll turn this round, because if we weren't bunking, we were literally bunking in that bunker. That there's an old war bunker, still there to this day. And we used to hide out in there. This place has changed somewhat in the years. It hasn't changed all that much. I hope, like I said, it's around for a long time again. Maybe this cafe will open up again. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Does anybody use phone boxes now? The defibrillator houses, I think. Anyway, thanks for joining me. If there's anything I could have said, I think I've said it. If there's anything I could have shown, I think I've shown it. If I've missed it, I think it's time for you to take up the mantle, get out there and get a bit of adventure. No more sitting behind your screens. Get your bums outside, get a bit of fresh air and start seeing what you just left behind. Fun stuff. Anyway, thanks for joining me. I'll be back next week. This time with something a little more different. I hope you join me. Take care, guys. Over and out. Brussels sprout.